Are you involved in a legal dispute and you've been calling around trying to find a lawyer to represent you and you can't? Well, there are probably a lot of reasons for this. Check out this short video to learn many of the reasons why lawyers won't take cases. Hey everybody, Barry here with the LawFull Channel. As you know, on this channel you're going to find short videos on the legal topics that affect our lives every day. If you haven't already, would you subscribe to our channel? And if you have any questions or comments, put them in the comments section below. If I can't help you, I'll find someone who can. So we're in the United States, and generally speaking, we have a really great legal system. I know there's a lot of talk about the inequities and stuff in the legal system, and there are. I'm not diminishing that. But I'm just saying, compared to many countries, we have an amazing legal system. And lawyers, they're the gatekeepers to the legal system. So if you want to increase the odds of winning your legal dispute, the best thing you can do is hire a lawyer. But a lot of people can't find a lawyer to represent them. And look, I'll just be honest with you. I've had hundreds of calls where I told people that I couldn't get involved in their case for one reason or another. So I made this short list of reasons why lawyers might not get involved in a case. And I didn't do it to make you angry. I'm just throwing these ideas out there to let you know why it might be tougher to get a lawyer than you thought it would be. So the first reason is, law is a business. Many people think of the legal profession and think that we should just automatically answer questions and get involved in every case that comes around, but that's not the truth of it. The fact of the matter is, when you open a law practice, you put up your shingle, it's a business and you got to pay bills and you got to pay staff and you're in the business to make money. So many lawyers, when they look at cases, if there's not going to be profit there, if they can't bring in revenue as a result of getting involved in your case, oftentimes they won't get involved. So let's look at a few cases where I see this a lot. First, let me say that if you are a business attorney or a divorce attorney, they charge on an hourly basis. So the answer is real clear for them. When they sit down with you originally, they're going to say, we need a $2,500 or $5,000 retainer. And if the client can come up with that money, they can obtain representation. But what about other cases? And those are the ones that I want to talk about in this video. So first are small claims cases. I've got to get 5 to 10 calls a week about small claims cases and people wanting to hire a lawyer for a small claims case. Well, I'm in Illinois. So in our court system, small claims cases involve cases that are $10,000 or less. Well, think about that for a second. If a case is worth $10,000 or less, and they're not all going to be worth the full amount of $10,000, my attorney's fees are going to be a fraction of that. And as a result, there's not much money to be made for an attorney getting involved in a small claims case. Now there are attorneys who will get involved in these cases. I'm just saying, generally speaking, the attorneys that I speak to don't want to get involved in a small claims case because there's not a lot of money to be made for them. Next, let's talk about property damage cases. Again, I get calls every week about people wanting to get an attorney involved in your property damage case. Normally, they're calling a personal injury attorney, which is what I am. And the thing is, personal injury attorneys don't really get involved in property damage cases if the only damage is to your vehicle. Personal injury attorneys are looking for cases involving pain and suffering and injuries and medical bills because that's what we get compensated on, not the recovery for your property damage. So if you've got a case that only involves property damage to your vehicle, chances are a personal injury attorney is not going to want to get involved in that case. Another type of case that lawyers are often hesitant to get involved in are where there is disputed liability. So let's take an example. So you got involved in an accident and you filed a claim with Allstate Insurance, and they told you that they think that you're at fault for the accident. So there's disputed liability. Well, what happens then? You call an attorney and you tell them the facts, you provide the attorney a copy of the police report, and the police put you at fault for the accident too. Well, that's a big hurdle to overcome, right? The attorney not only has to get you compensation for your injuries, but has to prove that you actually weren't at fault for the accident. And both the police report and the insurance company are already putting you at fault. So unless you have severe injuries, it's very likely that most attorneys are going to avoid getting involved in that case because it's tough to overcome disputed liability. And another case is those cases involving minor injuries, kind of like the small claims cases above. So I get a lot of calls from people that are involved in accidents and they suffered a back sprain or a neck sprain or strain or a concussion, a minor concussion. And a case like that is not going to be worth a lot to a personal injury attorney. Now, fortunately, there are a lot of attorneys that do take those types of cases. But generally speaking, higher level attorneys who are looking for brain injuries, broken bones, herniated discs, severe or catastrophic injuries are not going to be involved in those cases. And as a result, when you're first shopping for an attorney, you may get turned down quite a few times before you find an attorney who's willing to get involved in a case like that. Okay, another reason why attorneys might not get involved in a case is because the cost of litigating the case is too expensive. So for example, as a personal injury attorney, you get a lot of calls from people who are involved in what they believe were medical malpractice claims. Well, medical malpractice claims are tough to win, and they cost a ton of money to litigate. You've got to have depositions of doctors, treating physicians, and so forth, and also the use of expert witnesses who are also super expensive. And insurance companies, defense law firms, fight these medical malpractice claims like crazy. So these claims are going to go to trial, and it's very expensive to litigate a case for 2 or 3 years, get to trial, and try to win. The same thing holds true for products liability cases. So for example, let's say you were in a vehicle and the airbag goes off. Those are tough cases to win, and they're very expensive. So product liability cases are another case that a lawyer might be hesitant to get involved in because the cost of litigating it is so high. Here's an example of a case that you'd think a lawyer would get involved in, but can't. So for example, let's say you contacted an attorney and you wanted them to get involved in your personal injury case, but they, in doing their background research, learned that they have a conflict, meaning perhaps they represented somebody involved in your case in a prior case. Well, that could be a conflict, and lawyers are obligated to avoid representing somebody in this situation, and that might explain why they don't want to get involved in your case. Jurisdiction, or where the case occurs, might factor into somebody's decision in not wanting to represent you also. So for example, going back to personal injury, which is what I really know, if you were injured in North Carolina or Virginia or other states that follow something called contributory negligence, that's a harsh rule. And what it means is that if you're even 1% responsible for the accident you're involved in, you can't recover. And as a result, lawyers in that state have to be very particular about what type of cases they get involved in because liability has to be crystal clear for them to get involved. So jurisdiction could be another factor why a lawyer doesn't want to get involved in your case. Okay, here's another factor you might not have thought of. It could be that the insurance company involved in your case is a deterrent to the lawyer getting involved. So for example, personal injury attorneys, at least many I've talked to, can't stand dealing with Allstate insurance. They're terrible to deal with. And if Allstate is on the other side and you have a minor injury, chances are you're going to have to litigate that case to recover fully for your damages. And it's not necessarily a good thing to litigate a case with minor injuries. So that might deter them from getting involved. And certainly, if there's a substandard insurance carrier on the other side, some of these local insurance companies that only provide minimum limits in your state, $25,000 here in the state of Illinois, and you've got a small injury, those insurance companies are terrible to deal with. They don't return your calls, they don't pay you properly, and so getting involved in a case with one of those insurance companies might be a deterrent as well. Okay, and the last factor that I'm going to talk about today, although I'm sure there are many other reasons why an attorney might not get involved in a case, but this one is, again, in personal injury. Let's say your accident occurred 2 years ago, and the statute of limitations to file your lawsuit is coming up in the next couple of weeks, and then and only then do you contact an attorney to represent you. Well, chances are I'm not going to want anything to do with that case because the liability is too great if you blow the statute of limitations. It might lead to a malpractice lawsuit. So blowing your statute of limitations or getting close to it is another reason why lawyers might be staying away from your case. So that is a long laundry list of a variety of reasons of why a lawyer might not want to get involved in your case. Now it's time for your take on the law. Are you looking for a lawyer but you can't get anybody to represent you? Tell us about it in the comments section below. Hey everybody, thanks for checking out this short video on some of the reasons why a lawyer might not want to get involved in a case. Now, if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, would you please do so? We provide bi-weekly videos on the legal topics that affect your life. And if you have any questions or comments or a legal issue that you need help with, please reach out to me. If I can't help you, I'll try and find someone who will.